It's election time, so every candidate here in Georgia wants us to believe they're the William Wallace of gun rights. But once they're in office, most of them act more like Corporal Upham. All right, guys, now comes the big one. Who's going to be the Republican Party nominee for governor here in Georgia? We've been hammered with questions from gun owners about the differences between Rick Jackson, Burt Jones, Brad Raffensperger, and Chris Carr, and here's what we know right now. The day after Georgia gun owners sent out our gubernatorial surveys, Rick Jackson's campaign reached out immediately and wanted to complete it. A day or two later, his campaign bus pulls into our parking lot at the office here in Winder, and Rick sat there, asked a few questions, and then surveyed 100% pro-gun with Georgia gun owners. Rick Jackson vowed in writing to veto an AR-15 ban, to veto red flag gun seizure laws, to veto waiting periods, to veto the entire gun control agenda here in Atlanta. And Rick Jackson also said he would sign GGO bills into law like enhanced stand your ground law. So 100% pro-gun survey from Rick Jackson. The guy did it first, he did it enthusiastically, and that's very important. You see, once GGO told hundreds of thousands of gun owners about Rick Jackson's pro-gun survey through our email and social media and texting programs, well, then things began to change. And that's the power of Georgia gun owners and our members. Several days later, we received an email from Brad Raffensperger with his survey. Well, a lot of our members have a bad opinion of Brad. We're always happy to announce when a candidate surveys 100% pro-gun, even if it was days after we announced Rick Jackson's survey. But then GGO members began asking the obvious question: what about Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones? Well, GGO was told by Jones's surrogates that he was not going to be completing the GGO gun rights candidate survey. We mailed it to him. We may have also texted him, emailed him, whatever, but Burt made it clear he was not going to survey with us. Well, then Burt sees Georgia gun owners announce that Rick Jackson surveyed 100%. Then he sees that Raffensperger surveyed 100%. And so on the day of the survey deadline, just an hour before the cutoff, old Burt Jones does, in fact, survey with Georgia gun owners. Now, to be clear, Jones's survey was 100% pro-gun. So what changed? Jones wasn't going to survey, and all of a sudden he did with an hour to spare. Well, clearly, Burt Jones decided that refusing a survey with Georgia gun owners in a Republican Party primary here in Georgia would be stupid. So whether or not his survey is sincere is up to you to decide. And then last in the polls is our fearless Attorney General, heavy sarcasm intended, Chris Carr. Well, what has Chris Carr done for gun owners during his 8 years as Attorney General, and what can we glean from that as gun owners? Well, first of all, Chris Carr refused to answer the Georgia gun owners candidate survey. And anytime a candidate spits in the face of gun owners like that, it's a bad sign. Secondly, Chris Carr fought in court to defend, not overturn, but to defend current Georgia law that denies adults aged 18 through 20 the right to apply for a carry permit. You see, Georgia was sued over this stupid law, and rather than recuse himself from this suit, which attorneys general nationwide do all the time, it's actually pretty simple. The AG just tells the court that I disagree with this law, I'm not going to defend it, and the court hires outside counsel to represent the state. Rather than doing that and fighting for the Second Amendment, Chris Carr doubles down on the law and defended it in court. Ridiculous. And then third, Chris Carr wouldn't do a damn thing about the problems we were all having in Savannah. You recall what happened down there. The Savannah mayor was passing local gun control laws targeting gun owners, and all of it was in direct, clear violation of our state firearms preemption law. We repeatedly urged Chris Carr to send a letter to the mayor in Savannah and remind them of the law. Crickets. Finally, we got friends in the Senate to reach out to Chris Carr, and he finally sent them a letter. When the mayor got the letter, he began to mock Chris Carr on social media and mock gun owners on social media and said, "I'll see you in court." And when that happened, we assumed that Chris Carr would sue him immediately, but instead, Chris Carr pushed out again and he waited till a national organization sued Savannah, and then he filed a weak amicus brief and pretended that he was the champion for gun owners in Savannah. I mean, this guy didn't file, to our knowledge, Chris Carr did not file a single federal lawsuit against Joe Biden's attack on our gun rights during his entire 4 years in the White House. All Chris Carr would do was add his name onto amicus briefs after the AGs in Missouri or Kansas or Idaho did the work. So guys, at the end of the day, the choice is always yours, of course, but these are the differences. Rick Jackson surveyed immediately without being pressured, and he nailed it 100%. Brad Raffensperger surveyed as well after he saw our coverage on Rick Jackson, and Burt Jones refused to survey for weeks, but he did do it at the last minute. And finally, Chris Carr never surveyed at all and did not do a damn thing for us as gun owners, as 8 years being our Attorney General.